G'day fellow YouTubers, Bandit Dev, doing a how to open a Sena 20s when the battery needs to be changed out. And this one did need to, because it was only lasting about an hour. So the tools required: one Torx T8 to undo the screws at the back. Now you can use something like a watchmaker's kit to open up the Sena. This is probably going to be used on the jog dial, or you can use just like a pocket knife and get under the jog dial, and probably some little pinches here so you can get the little wires out, the little connectors. So okay, now keep in mind I've opened this up before, so it's a little bit easier. The jog dial is extremely hard to get off, but it does come off. You might think, well, I might break it. Well, it's a pretty robust device, this Sena 20s, so hopefully you won't. So I take no responsibility if you do. I'm just showing you a how-to and how I did it to change the battery out. So you get your knife or whatever and you go underneath the jog dial and you lift it up a little bit all around until it comes off. And you can actually, when the first time I did it, you could actually feel it and hear it creaking, and then it comes off. So if you have a look at that, you'll see that that spline there is extremely robust, very, very robust. So you can lean on it a bit, monkey boy. You can lean on it and get that jog dial off. That's the first thing you got to do, is get the jog dial off. Right, next thing, turn the beast over, get your Torx and start undoing the screws. You've got 5 screws with your Torx screwdriver. That's number 1. Now I have a little thing here just to put the screws in so you don't lose them, because they are pretty tiny. That's another one. Number 3. And number 4 at the end here. Now you say, where is the 5th screw? Well, if you lift the antenna up, it's just in underneath the antenna there. So don't forget that one. You need to undo that one with the T8. Now when you've undone that, it should all come apart. Nice and easy. There we go. Nice and easy. And there you have the battery. I'll just turn that around a bit. There you have the battery. Now, if you have a look closely, you'll see that that's where the battery connects in. Now, the last battery I had in here, which is the original, was a 650 milliamp hour battery. I had a look all over the internet and I could not find a 650. I had to get one that was very similar, and the way I found it was I went on eBay, had a look on eBay, and there was a seller on eBay that listed a lot of these different 3.7 volt batteries. Now, he listed them also with the length, the width and the thickness of the battery. Now, I'll just come back in a second because I want to show you the other batteries. The one that came out of the Sena and another one that I ordered which was incorrect. So I'll be back in half a tick. Okay, I am back. This is the original battery that was in the Sena 20s. That's the original battery. And on the end of that battery it had the connector, which is now on the new battery. So what you've got to do, you've got to cut the connector off of this one and solder it onto the new battery, the wires. And I soldered it, got it soldered and put shrink wrap over where the solder was, and all's well. So if you have a look at the size of these two batteries, they're very, very similar. This one probably is just ever so slightly bigger, ever so slightly, but it actually fits in, which is great. I had a look all over the internet for this one, could not find this one. Nothing with the number, nothing. So ended up with this one off eBay. It's a TF 602540, 600 milliamp hour, and it's working a treat. I took a chance and I bought a 800 milliamp hour battery. This one here, 800 milliamp hour, and that's how they come, wrapped up with the wires, but no connector on the end. Unfortunately, I wasted my money there because that one is just too thick. If you have a look at the thickness here of both of the batteries, it's just too thick. Good size, length, width, but thickness was just too thick, which is a shame because it's 800 milliamp hour, which would last a lot longer than 650 milliamp hour. So I hope that explains it a little bit. That's the original battery, that's the one that didn't go in, that's one I found on eBay that fits in quite nicely. Couple of things to look out for. Just watch that little, well, what could you call it, seal here. Just make sure that you get that back in because that's the seal that keeps the water out of the unit. So putting it back together, you just, once you've got your battery hooked up, you can use some little pliers or little tweezers to undo the, or get the little plug out, and pushing it back in, you won't need little tweezers at all, it just pops back in quite nicely. So you get the battery back in, settled in nicely. You put this cover back on, just making sure all your wires are a-okay, and push it together, making sure the spline comes out and feel it click together. That's the spline there, make sure that's out enough. Excuse me. Get your screws, your Torx T8, and start putting all the screws back in. So is it hard to do? Not really. The hardest part is just the jog dial. Once you got that off, it's easy peasy, as they say. So you put all your screws back in. Don't forget the one underneath the antenna. The first time I did this, because there's been no other video on how to open a Sena 20s up, I did it the wrong way. I undid these screws first, and I actually ended up pulling it apart more than I really had to change out the battery. So I did it the hard way. I'm showing you the easy way. But you learn, don't you? You live and learn, and seems to be a lot easier the second time around, and not as hard to do as what I first thought. There's a Sena SMH10 video out there that shows you how to open up that one and change out the battery, so that's good as well. But now we have a Sena 20s how to. Now the jog dial, last thing to put on, you push it, you get it on, and you push it down hard. Make sure it all turns. You can hear it clicking. It turns freely. Underneath the jog dial there is a little seal, but hopefully you won't have any trouble. That won't pop out or anything, and just, it's like a little O-ring. So it's just another weatherproofing part of the Sena 20s. So I hope this has been informative on how to open up the Sena 20s. That's all you need, is something to get underneath that and just lift it up ever so slightly each time around, or you can use a watchmaker's tool to get under there and lift it up ever so slightly. And just remember that spline is very, very robust, so you can lean on it a bit, and you may have to lean on it a bit to open it up. A little bit fiddly with soldering the wires, but I'm sure if you can't do it, you'll have a friend that will be able to do it. And that's it. Bandit Nev on a how-to for a change. And hopefully this has helped you keep your Sena 20s up and running for a lot longer. And don't forget, I take no responsibility if you break it. Bandit Nev. Thanks for watching. Cheers for now.